All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast real estate tip. And today I'm going to be breaking down how to get more real estate clients inside your business than you can possibly handle. Now, this is going to be a two-part podcast. And the reason being, so today's part one, and then tomorrow I'm going to release part two. And the reason why this is a two-part podcast, because in real estate, and this is really important to understand and know, so I want you to pay attention to this, is real estate is a two-step sales process. Step number one is we sell the appointment. Step number two on the appointment, that is where we sell our value. That's where we articulate our value and go in for the close. A huge mistake that so many in our industry make is they're trying to sell their services before the appointment. They're trying to sell their services over the phone. They're trying to sell themselves before they actually get face-to-face or via Zoom or whatever for that actual presentation for that appointment. Massive mistake. If you want to have the ability to go out there and set a ton of appointments, you learn to get damn good at selling the value of the appointment and why it's a benefit for the potential buyer, seller, or agent recruit of why they should meet with you, right? Then at the appointment, that is where we are going in. And again, articulating our value and going in for the close. So we got to dial in and really master both of these processes to go out there and master client acquisition. And when it comes to client acquisition, which just means our ability to go out there and acquire clients, and we need to have, this is the first skill set that I look at as real estate agents, we must master, right? The ability to go out there and generate infinite amounts of clients, right? Like your ability to go out there, you got to get damn good at your ability to go out there and generate as much, if not more clients than you possibly can handle. And if you master this skill set, it'll allow you to go out there and grow your business regardless of the market, at all different times. So this is the first skill set that everybody needs to master, in my opinion, inside this real estate business. And because there's two parts of this, and because I want to go deeper into each of these parts, I decided to break this up into a two-part podcast. So today we are going to hone in on part one of that. Right? Part one of the sales process, which is going to be your lead gen and lead follow-up. So AKA, from lead inception to setting that appointment. So today we're going to really be breaking down again what it takes to go out there and set appointments at a high level. And then in tomorrow's podcast, I'm going to be talking about, what to do on those appointments, like what should a great presentation have, and how do we go in and get those closings on those? Because again, both of these, and a mistake that I see so many make when it comes to lead gen and lead follow-up is they go and get this dialed in, but then they have a mediocre listing or buyer consultation or recruit presentation. They have low conversions. Yeah, right. Or even on the front end of setting the appointments, I see so many that focus on lead gen, but then they're shitty at the lead follow-up, and they never master that part of the process, right? Like all of these becomes paramount if you want to get damn good at this, which I hope that you do, and that's why you're here watching this. Now, the other thing that I want to say here is, look, everything I'm going to be talking about today, even though I might give more examples that are specific to the buyer and seller portion of the business, this all applies, right? Doesn't matter if you're an individual agent, team leader, broker owner, doesn't matter if you're recruiting and going after buyers, going after sellers, or going after agent recruits. It's all the same process. Regardless, it is a two-step sales process. So all of these kind of high-level fundamentals I'm walking through here today apply whether your clients are more buyers or more sellers, or, if you're a real estate company owner like myself, if your clients are agents, all of these things apply. All right, so again, we're going to be breaking down here, how to identify the best lead generation strategy for you. So who to target, how to reach out to them, what that follow-up needs to look like, and the skills to go out there and master this so you can, again, set those appointments at a high level. Now, before we jump into those, look, if you're a real estate agent, team leader, or brokerage owner, and your business is not exactly where you want and need it to be, I highly encourage and recommend you to schedule a 100% free, 100% zero pressure Zoom coaching call with me personally. This is going to be a 1 hour long Zoom call with you and I. Here's what we're going to break down. We're going to break down where your business is currently at, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals and visions are for your real estate business, what you are currently doing, what your biggest obstacles are. And then based on that information, then I'm going to personally on this call with you map out exactly what I recommend that you do to get from where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner, so we can get you fully focused eliminate all that confusion, all that guesswork, where you again will know exactly what you must start taking action on immediately to get from where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. Okay, so we're going to spend an hour long on this Zoom coaching call. Now, the first 50 minutes, I'm going to break down everything that I just said there, which I promise you is plenty of time, more than enough time. Doesn't matter, again, if you are an individual agent, team leader, or broker owner, whatever your goals are, I will get you dialed in. I got your back. I promise you that. I promise you, you will not leave this Zoom coaching call with not knowing exactly what you must do to get from where you're at to where you want to go. And then the last 10 minutes, because I like to just be fully transparent. Look, the last 10 minutes, yeah, I'm going to spend a couple minutes walking through what my coaching programs entail, what I offer, how it works. And look, if it's a fit for you, great. If not, that's okay too. We can still be friends. I can promise you, whether you ever move forward with my advanced paid coaching or, this free coaching call is the only experience you ever had with me, I promise this will be a massively beneficial use of your time. I will not waste your time. I will make sure that this is extremely powerful for you. You got nothing to lose, everything to gain. So if you want to take advantage of this, go to www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. And wherever you're watching or listening to this, if you just scroll below in the description of the show notes, there'll be a link, first link, where you can click on that too, if that's easier for you. Okay, so let's jump in again. We're going to the front end. So today we're really talking about lead gen and lead follow-up, AKA our ability to go out there and set a ton of appointments. Because in order to go out there and conduct those appointments and convert them into clients, what's step number one? Like, we got to be able to be masters at setting appointments. And then I'll tell you this, like, if you get this skill set down, you pretty much solve the vast majority of this industry's problems. So especially, like, not only growing your own business, but you want to go out there and have other opportunities where you can go out there and build teams and broker, where like you are solving everybody else's businesses out there. And this is probably the most important skill set that's going to allow you to scale, again, at a very high level. Okay, so there's three main components when it comes to this. I'm going to be breaking these down because we want to break these down separately. But before I do so, there's a couple things that you need to make sure that you have in place. And if you've been watching, listening to this podcast for a long time, you hear me preach about these things all the time, but these are going to be the two most important core systems inside your business that you need to have in place. So number one, you got to have your tracking system in place. And per lead source, I'll be quick on this because I know I beat this to death all the time, but I beat this to death all the time. Number one, because of the importance. Number two, because I know the vast majority you do not do it, right? It's just the fact, right? So, if you're doing it, congratulations. You're in the 1% of this industry that actually does it, actually, cares about your business and treats this as a business, right? Everybody else is just, if you're not tracking your numbers, that's, sign number one that you are winging it and that you're not treating your business as a business, not taking this seriously. And you are going to create a lot of unnecessary pain and suffering for the rest of your career unless you hone in your tracking system, right? So by tracking, I mean, okay, per lead source, we then need to be tracking number of dials, number of reach outs, number of conversations, number of appointments set, number of appointment conductions, number of clients. That's going to let us know what your overall conversions are, right? So then we can create predictability inside your business. Let's just say I'm calling, divorces. Maybe I'm going after that niche to go out there and get listings. Okay, well, I know it's about 500, roughly, right? When I say roughly, it's going to be different for each of you depending on your process and your skill set. But for me, okay, I know 500 dials is going to equate to one listing taken, right? So if I want to have a listing a week, I know I got to then hit on a daily basis 100 dials, 10 conversations, Monday through Friday, then boom, I'm taking a listing from that niche source, right? Or if I'm doing open houses, okay, I know I need 10 leads per one closing. And then I know what my, follow-up game is on that as well. So it creates predictability when we're able to know our numbers, right? So then you know exactly how many leads, how many reach outs, how many conversations, and so forth, how much energy and effort that it takes to go out there and equate X amount of closings. So that's really important. But then equally as importantly is this shows us and allows you to see the areas of improvement, right? So then from there, looking at tracking is like, okay, if you go to your doctor and you're sick, they're not just going to throw 50 pills at you and say, good luck, take these and hopefully one works. No, they're going to run a bunch of tests, run some vital signs, run a bunch of tests so they can pinpoint the sickness inside your body of what's going on so they know what to treat. This is what tracking does, right? Like if you're not getting the results that you want and you're not tracking your numbers, okay, that is like us just now throwing a bunch of shit against the wall and hoping something sticks. Where, okay, if we have your tracking, yeah, right. Okay. Like we can know if it's a process issue, if it's a system issue, if it's a skill set issue. Maybe your appointment set to conduction rate is lower than it should be. Okay, I know that that's, a combination of a process and skill set issue, but that can be fixed. There's 3 quick things that we can implement to fix that immediately. Or your dial to combo rate is low. Okay, I know that's probably, can be depending on how low and what that looks like. It's either going to be a frequency thing, a time and day thing. So that can be a process thing, or it's going to be a system thing. Okay, maybe your conversation to appointment set rate is low. Okay, now I know it's a skill set thing, right? So then from there, when we're able to see, okay, within those numbers, right, if you're not hitting the targets that you should, we can now see the areas of improvement where your sickness is inside your business. And now we can fix those things very, very quickly. So if you want to become a badass and you want to have that ability to go out there and generate more clients and set more appointments than you can handle, I know this is not the fun, sexy stuff, but look, this is necessary. So this has to become a non-negotiable for you that you are going to do. And again, it's just not an option, right? If you want to become a badass, it is not an option. Okay, number 2 is your CRM. So your CRM is how we keep all this stuff together. Your CRM is your technology assistant. Now understand that your CRM alone is absolutely useless. Doesn't matter what CRM you use, it is useless, right? Unless you plug in the right instructions. So a CRM is only as good as the processes that you plug into it, what those instructions are, right? Like a CRM is like a cookbook, but a cookbook is no good to us if it doesn't have the recipes. Because a cookbook, if you look at systems, this cookbook is the system. The recipes are the processes. Systems only exist for our processes to live, right? So you got to make sure that you are plugging in the right processes to maximize your conversions in your CRM. It's not enough just to have one, right? Like you gotta master it. And it's not just about mastering the CRM itself and knowing what buttons to push. Yeah, that's important, but you got to know, okay, what do I put inside the CRM? What are the instructions I'm going to put inside there, right? Which I'll talk about that more because our process is a really important element of being able to convert and generate these leads. Okay, so of these 3 things that we're going to break down today, and I call this the 3-legged stool of client acquisition, right? At least a part 1 of this of setting appointments. So the reason why I call it the 3-legged stool is if one of these is missing, then boom, that stool falls over. So if you have one of the legs of a stool, 3-legged stool missing, like it doesn't work. You got to have all 3 of these. So like you might be good at 1 or 2 of these and have these dialed in, but if you're missing one of these, you're going to have low conversion. So all 3 of these are all equally as important, right? Okay, so stool number 1 or part number 1 of this is going to be strategy. So strategy, when it comes to client, overall strategy just means what's your overall effective plan. But when I'm talking about client acquisition strategy, what I mean here, and there's 2 parts to this. Okay, part number 1 is identifying based on the market that we are in. And when I say the market that you are in, that can be geographical location, right? But that also can be an economic location, right? Or what's going on economically, right? So this is, then we're identifying, okay, who can I serve at the highest level in my marketplace based on everything going on right now, right? That needs my services. So like right now, okay, as of me recording this podcast, part 1 of this, it is March 25th, 2024, right? At least as me recording this. I don't know when you're watching this, right? So when I'm looking at this, okay, this is a market now of not wants, but needs. Like I'm not targeting who wants to buy or sell. I'm targeting who needs to buy and sell because the economic climate has changed so fast over the last couple years, right? There's an abundance of people that want to buy and sell, but can't. They're unwilling or unable to. So I got to target people that need to buy and sell. So another way of looking at this, or the way that I always think about this, is who has the highest probability of needing my services in this given market that we are in. Right. And you got to get damn good at this and damn good at the ability to shift and change and pivot with the marketplace. I look at this like as real estate agents or real estate professionals, like we got to be like water. We got to be able to flow, man. Okay. Like we're going this way. Then all of a sudden the riverbank changes and shifts, far to the left. Okay. Like we just flow with it. Then all of a sudden we got a bunch of rocks. Okay. We flow around it. Right. So throughout your entire career, you're going to have different things that work in different times for different reasons. So I get asked quite often, like, "Oh, Josh, what is your, what is your favorite lead gen strategy?" And my answer to that is my favorite lead gen strategy is the best strategy and or strategies that are the most effective one for the given climate that we are in. So here's an example. Okay, so I've been doing this 20 years, and throughout, almost 20 years now, and building, become one of the top realtors and team leaders on the planet over this 20-year time frame of mine. Up until about 9 months ago, I have personally never targeted those going through a divorce as far as one of my niches, like who I'm targeting, right? So I've never focused on that niche my whole entire career. But then about 9 months ago, I was like, hey, man, this is going to be a great niche, meaning who has the highest probability of needing my services in this marketplace. We are now in the most difficult time financially that anybody alive today, speaking in masses, speaking in generalities, right? We are in the most difficult financial time of anybody alive that they've experienced today. Now, you may have in your life experienced a financial time that's been, harder than what you're going through right now. There's situations. But when we speak overall, it's the most unaffordable time to be alive as a U.S. citizen to ever exist in U.S. recorded history today. Right? When we look at amount of debt explosion, amount of savings evaporation, right now it is the most financially challenging, most difficult financial time for the masses, right? Speaking in general terms, that they've ever experienced in U.S. recorded history, right? Or at least anybody that's alive today. Maybe the Great Depression. I wasn't alive during those times, right? So, but anyway, with that, so I'm looking at this. Then I'm like, what's the number one reason for divorce? Financial hardships. Okay, well, people are going through the most difficult financial hardships en masse that they've ever went through. Okay, if the number one reason for divorce is financial hardships. Okay, that niche. And so I started doing some due diligence as I'm mapping this out and look at the, explosion rate of divorces, right? Then from there, right. Okay. Like I said earlier, of strategy is who has the highest probability of needing our services in that given market climate, economic climate that we are in. Okay. Probability of them living under the same rooftop as they go through this new situation change, probability of them living under the same rooftop, very low. Probability of them needing to sell to split this asset, very high, right? The other upside to this too is not in all situations, but we're seeing about 25% right now of this okay, once they sell, either one or both parties also being in a position where then they want to go out there and buy real estate at the same time. So get the listing and then sometimes also get the buy side. But that's been a new niche for me. Yeah, right. So where I'm going here is don't allow yourself to get comfortable, in any given lane, because like what you are doing today may not work tomorrow. Like things can get disrupted. So allow yourself to be fluid with this. So based on the market climate, because something I want you to understand, to get really damn good at client acquisition, you got to operate from the mental philosophy of there is no such thing as a good market or a bad market. The market is always good for somebody. It's our job as real estate professionals to identify whom the current market is good for and then pivot, shift, and adapt according to whom it's good for. It's like 2020, 2021, the market's just going freaking berserk, right? When home prices were going up 20%, year over year, pretty much, all markets and some even more so. And things were just freaking crazy. And there's 50 offers on every single property. And, okay, what was the media saying? Who is that market? The media is like, oh, that's such a great market. The real estate market's so strong. Who is that market good for? Look, it was great if you were a seller, but it absolutely sucked if you were a buyer. So pretty much every market is good for somebody and sucks for somebody, right? So whether it's an up market, down market, whatever, there's always opportunities to be had. You need to be able to see where the opportunity is at. And that's going to be different from the list side versus the buy side. So step number one is I'm going to identify what my niche is going to be, meaning my ideal client and or ideal clients for that given specific market of where we're at. Yeah, right. So step number one of strategy is to identify your ideal client, AKA your niche for that market. Then step number two of this is to identify the medium that you are going to target this niche within. Right. So, whether it's going after buyers, whether it's going after sellers, or agent recruits or whatever. Now I know, okay, who I'm going to target. Let's just say it's divorces. Or it's okay, if we look at great listing niches right now, you got divorces, you got absentee owners, you got pre-foreclosures, you got expireds, you got FSBOs. Those are really the 5 best niches right now going after listings, right? Or if I'm going after buyers, right? Look, okay, reload buyers to my marketplace from other more expensive places that are moving to my market because it's more affordable. Or okay, like with agent recruits, like, okay, who I'm going after right now is brand new agents. And then agents doing, under 3 million, seasoned agents doing under 3 million, because I know that they have the highest probability of needing to make a shift right now. I know that anybody that's doing less than 3 million a year in production is really struggling right now. They're living, paycheck to paycheck, barely scraping by, and they need a situation change. Otherwise, the probability of them having to get out of the marketplace is very high. So there's urgency there, right? So now we know who we are targeting. Then from there, okay, how am I going to target them? Now, this comes down to, there's a couple things to put into factor here. Right? Okay, your personal timeline, as well as your strengths, as well as weaknesses, what you want to do, don't want to do. But the biggest thing overall is timeline, right? Like, meaning, how quickly do you need money? Mistake that I see so many make in this industry are like, oh, well, man, they don't want to, they're like anti prospecting because it's not fun. They don't want to do it, but they're going to go broke in 4 or 5 months. So then it's like they want to have this inbound business built, but just understand there's different timelines. Like, okay, if I'm doing YouTube or if I'm doing social organic, which, I can get inbound business coming in that way. Or then if I'm doing direct mail, like letter strategies, targeting these niches, all these things are great, but they have different timelines. Like, here's an example. If I'm going after expireds, if I want a listing this week, okay, I can go pound the phones right now and pretty much guaranteed, with my knowledge, with my skill set, and with enough, frequency, I can go out there and get a listing or two this week if I start attacking expires through the phone. Now, if I if I do my expired letter, which I've got a good, great high converting expired letter, right? But if I start mailing that letter, okay, I know that my average expired listing comes after receiving letter number 8. That's 5 months post expiration. So there's going to be a different timeline, right? Am I okay with doing this strategy, knowing that it's going to be 6 months or 9 months of a buildup time, or do I need now immediate business? So you got to pay attention to timeline, and then also looking at, okay, like, how do you want to build your business? What are your strengths to go out there and build your business? So these are going to be different. And if you have a quicker timeline, okay, it's going to probably be prospecting based, like picking up the phone or going out there and pounding the pavement. Right. And then when it comes to marketing and inbound style strategies, those are more long-term. Right. All are great, all are effective. I do all of them. Right. But we just got to really pay attention to timeline, and then paying attention to, okay, how do you want to build your business? Now, sometimes it's not about, what you want to do. Right. Like, and I'm just doing this because I want to be honest with you guys and upfront with you guys and not sugarcoat shit. Right. Look, sometimes we got to do crap that we don't want to do as a means to an end. Like an example, maybe I jump into the business. I'm broke as a joke, like I was when I first got in the business. I needed money right away. Well, I love inbound. So maybe I want to start growing my business through YouTube and through social organic and through letters. So I got people reaching out to me, people coming to me. Okay, well, then I know, depending on what that is, let's just say it's, YouTube. Okay, I know I'm going to plan on about 10 to 12 months, roughly, before I start to get consistent business coming in from that medium, right? That medium. So, or that, I don't want to say that as a strategy, right? Per se, that's just the tool, right? Like when I look at medium, I look at that as, okay, that's the mailbox, that's YouTube, that's Facebook, that's just, where a message is showing up. Okay. So then from there, though, okay, well, if I need business before that, okay, I might need to start stacking open houses and be pounding the phones so I can get the immediate business. Then at the same time, building out my long-term strategy, my long-term plays like YouTube or whatever, knowing that eventually that will then replace the stuff I don't enjoy doing. But just really pay attention to timeline, because I see so many in this industry get themselves in massive trouble because they're not paying attention to timeline. They pick different sources because they hear it's the best, but maybe it's not the best for you, for your situation, right? It's very nuanced, right? Depends on what your schedule is, what your situation is, again, what your timeline is, how quickly you need money, but step number 2 of strategy. So step number 1 is identifying your ideal client, AKA the niche that you're going to target that has the highest probability of needing your services in that marketplace. Step number 2 then is identifying, okay, what is the medium that I'm going to go after and get them? Like, what is the vehicle? Right? Is it going to be mail? Is it going to be hitting the phones? Is it going to be, online ads? Like how that is how you are going after them. Okay. So that is strategy. Now let's get into part number 2 of the 3-legged stool, which is process. So now we know who we're targeting and how we are going to target. Process then is how long and how frequent and in which ways do we need to follow up to maximize conversions. This becomes really, really important. Okay, like whether I'm doing mailer campaigns, I need to know what the average timeline is of that lead source, so I know how long. Like, okay, my expired campaign, because I know what percentage of expireds relist out of the gate versus what percentage, relist at, only 10% relist in the first 90 days, 90% relist between month 4 and that 2-year mark. Okay. So like my letter mailer campaign goes out for 2 years, and I know the right frequency to send it. I've tested it enough to go out there and maximize those conversions. Right. So with this, you got to identify, and each different lead source that we're going after, has different timelines. So we got to pay attention to this. Let's just say a Facebook lead. Okay, I know a Facebook lead on average is in my system for 6.7 months before they become a client. Okay, most realtors follow up with a lead twice and then dump it. Okay, that's not free. Like you might as well just not even do the thing. So process is how long and how frequent must we follow up to go out there and maximize conversions. And this just isn't initially, because one thing that's really important to understand is, okay, yeah, we have the initial conversation, and whether it's a prospect or a lead, meaning whether it's outbound or inbound, either way, we got to get damn good on the phones. Okay, objective of conversation number one at the highest level, objective of conversation number one is to identify goal, identify timeline, set appointment if able appropriate, if unable appropriate, because we know goal and timeline. Okay, then now we know what the appropriate follow-up process is to follow to go out there and maximize conversion. So let's just say I'm talking to somebody, they have a situation change, they're planning on retiring, but then they decided not to retire. That's why the home came off the market. They're going to work for 2 more years. Yeah, that's not an objection. That's a situation change. But I want to make sure I get that listing, knowing that they're going to go out there and list for the next 2 years. So, okay, I have a follow-up protocol based on, what their timeline is. So whether it's under 6 months, 6 to 12 months, or 1+ year out, to go out there and maximize those conversions, because I understand it's a numbers game. I understand you're going to get a percentage of people that are going to list or buy immediately. You're going to get then a percentage on your 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Like, I don't care when I get the business. Yeah, right. Like, yeah, we all love the business right now, but that's an impossibility, right? So I don't care when I get it. I just know it's a law of averages. It's going to shake out to what it's going to shake out. I just want to make sure that I'm putting myself in the best position to get the business when they are ready. So, okay, initial conversation, we already talked about the objective there. Then the objective of every follow-up conversation is to develop connection, develop rapport, reinforce timeline and goal, and then set appointment if able or appropriate, right? So when we're talking process, we got to know. So let's just say, okay, my universal process for any prospect or lead overall. Now, there's some differences on some specific niches, but overall, this is my universal initial reach out. So I call this my no time frame established call tasking process, right? So with that just means I haven't had a conversation with them yet. I don't know what their goal or timeline is. I'm going to call day one, then I'm going to call so I do this with expireds, divorces, like you name it. This is my universal, right? So, okay, I'm, or if I'm trying to recruit agents, again, it doesn't really matter what the lead or prospect source are. There are some exceptions, but they're pretty rare. So I'm not going to go through those right now, right? So, okay, it's going to be call day one, then every other day for the first 14 days, and every 21 days for the first year. Right, that's a long enough frequency, and you got to make sure that you're having enough frequency. All that's got to be part of your process. When you look at, okay, if you are getting a 10% dial the conversation rate today, which is good, that's what we want to hit, and that's the target to hit. Minimum of 10%. I want to be in that 10 to 15%. And if you're having the right frequency, calling at the right times, and you got the right, systems in place, okay, that's very achievable, right? But 10% is good, right? Most people aren't getting a 10%, right? So, but you should be getting a 10% or greater, and that's why you want to be tracking your numbers. Okay, so then from there, let's just say we're getting a 10%. So that means when you call this one lead, on average, it's going to take 10 times to get them even on the phone. Then from there, just because I'm a tracking freak, I know the numbers, I know what the averages are, right? So then from there, okay, you're going to get an average 5 no's to set the appointment before you get a yes. So on the same lead, on average, you're going to have to reach out 60 times and have 6 conversations to eventually set and go out there and conduct that one appointment. So if you don't have the right process, you're gonna have low conversion yields, right? And this is where CRM, what I talked about earlier, is so important, because it's not just the overall lead. Like, think of all the detours. Okay, I set an appointment and then they cancel or no show me, right? Okay, well, I know I got a 12 touch, 26-day follow-up process. It's a series of 6 emails and 6 calls. I just go into my CRM, I click a button, it's automatically getting queued off, automatically tasks me to go out there. Like, if you don't have your CRM in place, you're never going to be able to remember to do this stuff. You're going to have low conversions, right? Okay, so process, you got to get that dialed in. That is leg number 2 of the 3-legged stool. So you got to know what that is, and you need to go out there and do your due diligence. A mistake that people always ask is, oh, well, what's the best lead source out there? They're all good for the most part, right? There's no such thing as bad leads. There's just bad follow-up processes and bad skill sets, right? It's just people's inability to convert leads at a high appointment. So, okay, when you're looking at a lead source, what you first need to do before you even make a decision and go on that lead source is, okay, what is the proven effective follow-up process to get high conversions on this lead source, and know what those conversions are, and make sure that that's doable for you. It's like a lot of individual agents. I don't recommend things like Zillow or Realtor.com for, a lot of individual agents, because it's a highly effective, highly converting, a high ROI lead source. But because you have to be so insanely reactive, it's very difficult for individual agents to pull that off, to get the conversions that they need, to get the ROI that they need, because it's such a, expensive lead source to go out there and get. Yeah, right. Versus, okay, if you have a team and you have people that are in a department that can be highly reactive, so this stuff is very situational, right? We got to make sure that, okay, I can follow that process and I'm willing to follow the process, and I have, the time and the energy and the attention to follow that process, to maximize those conversions. With that. Okay. So then from there, the last leg of the stool here is skill set. You got to master skill set, you guys. So skill set is just how good are you at doing the things that you are doing, right? So now today we're talking about our ability to go out there and set appointments. So this is going to come down to your conversation skills. Yeah, right? Like, how good are you at your pre-frame openers? How good are you with your tonality? How good are you at articulating the value of setting that appointment? So let's just say I'm calling a seller, right? And maybe it's an expired. They decide they're going to wait. They decide to hold off, and maybe they decide they're going to hold off for 12 months. Well, why would they want to meet with me right now? I've got to be able to articulate of why it's of value to them. You guys have heard of the analogy with them. What's in it for me? Right. So we have to be able to articulate why it's not, because we know like why we want it is real estate. Like, we know why we want it, why we want to get face-to-face, because it's going to go greatly maximize our overall conversions. It's not about why we want it. It's about why is it of value and benefit to them. So you got to be able to articulate that. Right. And then the other thing is not just articulate, because if you want to have very high appointment setting abilities when it comes to skill set, you got to be able to sell the value of the appointment, why it's a benefit to them, why somebody should do a buyer consult with you right now, even though they might be a year out. You can explain hey, not only is it important to make sure that you're extremely well educated, on the overall home buying process, but this way you got plenty of time to get all your ducks in a row. You can explain how there's little, tweaks that they can start doing with their credit and work with the lender, so they can be, that can possibly save them tens of thousands of dollars, lifelong in their mortgage, and get them in that best, right, you're articulating the value of why they should meet with you right now. Same thing with a seller. Why should they meet with you right now? Same thing with an agent, right? Like when I do my agent recruiting sessions, right? Like I've got to, like, dude, they're busy. They don't want to be sold. They don't want to be pitched. So I go, hey, why this is a value to them, right? So I think all that makes sense. But then from there, the second portion of this is you got to make sure that they feel safe. And what I mean by this is, we know that the consumer today, what the consumer wants is they want the information that they want and need to make their best informed decision for themselves and for their families. But they want to do that in a safe, non-pushy, non-pressure, non-hassle environment. You and I are no different, right? So then we got to make sure, and this is why tonality, and then how we express, it's not just tonality, it's also the words that we use. Even though I would say that the tone and the pausing and the pacing, 70% of sales comes from verbal, nonverbal cues. So it's not so much what we say. It can be more importantly of how we say it and how we deliver that. But an example here, like maybe like making them feel comfortable. Maybe I'm going in to set a buyer consult. Yeah, right. So when I'm going into that though and selling the value of the buyer consult, then I also understand equally, I got to make them feel comfortable. They don't feel that threat. We got to remove that threat of push, pressure, sold, hassled, right. So when I'm, after I get done selling the value of it, then I might transition into something like this. Hey, and just so you know, the sole purpose of this meeting is to provide you with all the information that you need to make the best decision for yourself and for your family. And regardless of whatever that decision is, hey, that's okay. Look, at the end of this meeting, hey, you may decide that homeownership isn't for you, and not now and not ever. And if that's your decision, hey, that's okay. You might also decide that homeownership is for you. Now just isn't the time. And again, if that's your decision, that's okay. You may even decide that, hey, maybe homeownership is for you. You want to go out there and do this thing now, but maybe you don't feel comfortable with utilizing me as your real estate agent through this process. And if that's your decision, hey, that's okay too. Like I said, the sole purpose of this meeting is to provide you with all the information that you need to make your best informed decision for yourself, for your family. And just so you know, I've got a very strict, absolute no pressure policy inside my business. I don't believe in treating others how I don't want to be treated. When I'm in a sell situation, somebody's hard pushing me and hard pressuring me, I can't stand that. It's such a big turnoff to me. Again, I don't believe in treating others how I don't want to be treated. So you never have to worry about being pushed, pressure, hard sold with me. Like I said, the sole purpose of this meeting is to provide you with all the information that you need to make your best informed decision for yourself, for your family. Does that sound fair? Right. And I'm transitioning into that because here's a tactic that a lot of people will do is they'll set the appointment with you knowing that they can no show or cancel, and that's just a way out of getting you off the phone, right? So we got to equally sell the power, the value of the appointment, of why it's a benefit for them. So I want you to be thinking about, I know what mine are, and I know what mine are for my agents and what I tell my coaching clients on, but what I want you to be thinking about for you is how are you going to articulate that value for them, and what are you going to share and present and provide to them as to why they should meet with you now, even though they might be 6 months out or 8 months out or 12 months out, right? So be thinking about that. And then equally at the same time, making sure that you remove that threat, right? Like I tell you right now, and I know I say this all the time on the podcast, but my absolute no pressure policy, best policy I ever instituted in my real estate business. It's a way better USP than any of my, home sold guarantee, or I buy it. Like a lot of these other agents, or other team, whatever, think that, I have all these other guarantees, and maybe they can't offer those same guarantees. They think that, those are the guarantees that make or break it, and that different. No, those have very little impact, man. I just really do a lot of those other USP, if you want to call it a USP, those guarantees, because it allows me to create more opportunities for my investor clients and find more real estate deals out there. But the one that's made the biggest impact to go out there and set more appointments and gain more clients has been that no pressure policy, because it's giving the consumer what they want. One of my first mentors told me, I said, Josh, you want to make a lot of money in this business? He's like, you don't follow the golden rule, you follow the platinum rule. The golden rule is treat others how you want to be treated. The platinum rule is treat others how they want to be treated. Okay, we need to understand human behavior, human psychology, and know how others want to be treated. Right? And I know this is why if you I know I go into this all the time. I'm talking about sales conversions on the podcast with you guys, but I call it selling without selling. Yes, I'm selling. Yes, I'm leading the process, but I'm doing it in a way where people do not feel sold. This is where skill set comes in. This is where, again, you got to know how to pre-frame those conversations. What are the first two sentences of that of your pre-frame opener? So when I'm introducing myself to a leader or prospect, okay, well, those first couple sentences, those exist to diffuse sales resistance, right? So I'm making sure that I'm differentiating myself and removing that threat. So like one that I use all the time for like FSBOs, divorces, agent recruits, whatever, something like this, right? So let's just say, I don't know, their name's Joe. Hey, is this Joe? Yeah, Joe. Hey, this is just Joshua Smith with XYZ Real Estate. Hey, I want to see if you could help me out with something really fast. And look, I know that this is probably a shot in the dark, something that you're probably not interested in. And if you're not, no worries at all. Just let me know. And again, no problem at all. But I just wanted to sort of run it past you, just in case it might be something that you might, have some possible interest in. Right. So why is that pre-frame? And I went a little bit faster than I normally would. I'd slow it down even more so than that on the phone, but I'm just in essence of time here for the podcast. Right. But why is that such a solid pre-frame opener? Okay. When I lead off with hey, this is probably a shot in the dark, something that you're probably not interested in. Like, who does a sales call like that? Hey man, like, I got something to sell you. Probably not going to want it at all though. Right? Like, it's unorthodox, it's different, makes you not sound like other realtors or other sales experience that they had. But also at the same time, it creates curiosity. Well, what if I am interested? Right? But then from there, as I transition that into it, and if you're not, no worries at all. Just let me know. And again, no problem at all. Right? That gives them permission that it's okay to say no. So it removes a threat. So that's what I'm talking about, skill set. Like, I don't care how good your script is, how good your offer is, what you have to offer them. If they're not listening to it, right? Because if they feel threatened, they go into fight or flight mode, and they're looking to do just that, fight or flight. That's where you get the hardcore shutdowns, right? We got to keep them out of passive listening mode and keep them in active listening mode. So if you don't pre-frame correctly, okay, you're going to have very low conversions, right? So then from there, then you got to have the right script based on like how I speak to a divorce. People going through a divorce, my scripting for divorces is different than FSBOs. That's different than expireds. That's different than absentee owners. That's different than a Zillow lead. That's different than a Facebook lead. That's different than open house scripts. Right? Each lead source, and some can be the same, but each different lead source, how I'm speaking to a new agent recruit is vastly different than my scripting for a seasoned agent recruit, right? So we got it. That's all what skill set comes in. You got to make sure that you are, because instead of like, if I'm sending a letter, okay, that letter, like what would be included in that letter to an expired would probably be different than a short sale, which would be different than absentee owner. So, okay, like the only difference between a letter and me hitting the phones, right, is just, okay, one's words on a paper, the other's words coming out of my mouth, right? So, but we got to match the messaging based to who our ideal client is, right? And based on what's going on with them, with their time, their timeline, dictates process. Their psychology of what's going on in their head at that time for going after that ideal client, at least when it pertains to real estate. Psychology then dictates our messaging. So that's where I'm talking about skill set. Now we also have, the skill set and the process, when it comes to delivery of the actual presentations, which I'm going to be talking about in part 2 tomorrow on the podcast. But today I wanted to do a deep dive into part number 1. So again, this all comes down to in that 3-legged stool. We got strategy, process, skill set, and this comes down to nail these 3 things, right? This is going to massively, massively, massively increase your ability to go out there and set appointments, right? It's like right now, and then, I learned this a long time ago, right? This is when this business gets damn good. When you get to the point we have more customers than you can handle, not only will that allow you to leverage and go out there and eventually create teams and brokerages or expand your teams and brokerages, but let's just say you don't even want to do that. Right? Well, when this business initially started getting fun for me is when I realized, okay, man, if I have the ability to go out there and set more appointments than I can handle, now I can start getting picky and choosy about who I want to work with. When we're in the very beginning, or when our business is down and we're desperate and we need deals, well, then you might get stuck being in a position where you need to go work with this person, even though they walk over you and treat like a human punching bag and treat like shit, and you can't stand working with them. Yeah, right. However, though, when you develop these skill sets, well, now you get to be picky and choosy. You get to work with people that you truly want to work with, and then you can refer the other out, or just say, hey, no. And then you get to a point. And I'm, been here for a long time and still today. Now, my role today within my team is I'm focused on agent recruiting. And then I train and coach my agents on how to go out there and do all this stuff, because I'm a full-time team leader, quote unquote CEO of my business, but I'm stacked all day long with appointments with agents, right? All day long, right? Pretty much every day, all day long, right? But then it gets to a point where, it's nice to get to the point where like you're glad when somebody has to reschedule or no shows yet, because you're like, oh, finally I get a breathing room. Right. I mean, that's where you want, I say, I don't, I want all of them to show and I want to continue growing the business. But then, when somebody, no shows me or let's just say reschedules, and you're like, oh, finally I get a second of breathing room, right today. Like, it's kind of a good feeling to be able to get our businesses to that position. Okay. So with that, this is part number 1. And again, look, you guys, if you do not know when it comes to this, if you do not know exactly what the best strategy is for you personally, for your business to go out there and grow and scale it, you don't know exactly what to do. And look, whether your business is declining, whether it's staying stagnant, whether it's growing, maybe it's growing, just not growing at the exact pace that you want it to be at. And look, I don't care if you're brand new or if you're an individual agent, maybe you're popping 20 deals, you want to get to 100 deals a year, or maybe you're a team leader, broker owner, and you're popping 500 deals, you want to get to 1,000 a year. Doesn't matter what level that you're at. If your business is not exactly where you want it to be, and you want to take advantage of this 100% free, zero pressure Zoom coaching call with me personally, where we can break down your business, go through what you're doing, where your business is currently at, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals and dreams and visions are, what you're currently doing, what your biggest sticking points are. Then from there, I'm going to map out what my recommendation is to get you from exactly where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner. And I promise you, I got you covered. I got your back. I will not let you down. I promise you, you will not leave this Zoom call with not knowing exactly what to do to get from where you're at to where you want to go. So if you are struggling for any reason and you're not taking advantage of this, look, I can't help you. I don't know why people will, I get people all the time that will come on like, I've been wanting to do this for months. I could have used your help, but I just was nervous, or I didn't feel no, the quicker that we can get you dialed in, the better. Like I said, you got nothing to lose, everything to gain. I'm not going to high pressure. It's not my style. Yes, at the very end, I'm going to walk through what my coaching program entails. If it's something for you, great. If not, that's okay too. I'm not going to make you feel guilty. I'm not going to ask you to whip out a credit card or beg you, or look, if you want to do it, cool. If not, that's okay too. You got nothing to lose here, with this. I promise you, I'm going to pour into you. I want to help you. I know that there are a lot of you out there that are struggling for different reasons. Right? I mean, I talk to people all the time on these calls that are kicking ass in their business, but their biggest struggle is, because there's a bazillion things that they're, focus on. And like one of the biggest struggles that people have today is, what do I laser focus on? Because there's just so much information noise out there. What do I laser focus on? And maybe their business is growing 20 or 50% year over year, but it could be growing 100% year over year if they just got laser focused. And I help them get that laser focus. So again, if there's something you take advantage of, go to www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. I will get you dialed, and I promise you that. All right, guys, keep crushing it. Truly appreciate you being here, all your support. Keep crushing it. We'll talk to you next time. And I'll see you in part number 2, where we're going to talk about presentations and honing in, whether it be a listing presentation, buyer presentation, or recruit presentation, how to deliver successful presentations. All right, guys, talk to you next time. Keep crushing it. Peace.